G'day guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to talk about this, my Precision 22-250. So people want to know what I had done to this rifle. Now, you would call it a build, not that putting together a chassis on a rifle is really a build, it's more like fucking Meccano. But anyway, it's a build. So what is it? To start with, I had a Tikka T3x light in 22-250. Now, when I originally bought that, it was because I wanted to be walking around in the hills where I fox hunt. There's like a billion buku hills to walk up. We weren't really doing much spotlighting at the time. We were kind of stomping around and trying to whistle foxes in. So I wanted something light at the time. We'll circle back to why that wasn't a great idea in a minute. But that's what I had. I ended up not really liking how that gun was set up. It was set up more like a stalking rifle, and I kind of wanted a long-range precision rifle because I found that when I was shooting the foxes, a lot of the time they would be 300-400 metres away. So I wanted to be able to reach out and not have to worry about, oh, do I have to keep whistling this fucking thing in, or can I just take a long-range shot? So that's where I ended up going with. I've got enough short-range guns. I figured I'd have at least one long-range gun, and this is this one. So originally I had a Leupold VX3 3.5 to 10 by 50. Now that was really good scope because it let in a lot of light, but at times 10, especially if you're shooting a fox, foxes are quite small, at long range became quite difficult. So I decided I wanted to put a fucking big scope on it. But putting a big scope on a rifle with a standard stock, in my opinion, is not the greatest idea. It ruins your balance. The balance is a bit tall. It tends to rock the rifle like that when you're trying to shoot, in my opinion anyway. So I decided I'd go full retard and whack it in a chassis as well. The scope itself is a Falcon Endura 3.5 to 25. By, I think the objective is 56. I think the objective is 56 from memory. It looks about 56. Anyway, it's got exposed turrets so I can dial. It has parallax adjustment on the left-hand side. It has windage adjustment on the right-hand side. Exposed turret is dialable. It's a 34mm tube, so you do get a lot of extra adjustment in your turret. Now some people think that the bigger the tube, the more light transmission you have. That's not actually true. Light transmission comes from the objective bell. The tube size itself does not really affect the amount of light that comes through the ocular lens. And what it does affect is the amount of travel you can get in the piece of glass that holds your reticle. I've been using this scope for a while. Is it the best scope in the world? Probably not. But it's fairly cheap. I think I paid $750 for that. I'm going to keep using it for now, but that may get swapped out. Now, obviously, I test a lot of optics. I'm a bit of a nerd. I usually like to test something myself before. Like, I don't usually read reviews and go, oh, if someone reckons that's all right, I'll give it a crack, or if someone reckons that's crap, I'll give it a crack. I like to check things myself. So I will do a full in-depth review on this as a separate video. However, it's not really doing exactly what I need it to do. It's a perfectly fine scope for daytime shooting, but for nighttime, it's a little bit limited. No illuminated reticle. I've found that I might want an illuminated reticle in the future, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Speaking of scopes, I do have a night scope, or day-night scope, coming from a European company to test out. So that's going to go on this rifle. It's essentially, it's a whole new scope, and it's about the same zoom range as like a 3 to 20, something like that. But then it has a clip-on night sight attachment on the ocular lens side. This will be coming off for that. I'll be testing that. But yeah, so just know that the scope is not set in stone of what's running on this rifle. But it is what it is. All right, it's sitting on a MDT 20 MOA rail at the bottom here. Obviously sitting on our Tikka 22-250. Now, everyone knows Tikkas are smooth. Yep, lovely jubblies. I have changed the trigger to a Timney 2-stage trigger. I wasn't going to change the trigger because I think Tikka triggers are fine from factory. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them. But this trigger was sold to me cheap by a mate who bought it and then didn't want it. So the one thing I don't like about it is on safe, it doesn't lock your bolt. I like the fact that it's locked because then I know if I try to lift the bolt, I know the safety's on. It's just one of those things, personal preference. Is it needed? Probably not. But the trigger itself is quite nice. There is a little bit of creep in there. I still haven't fucked around with the adjustments too much. The first to second stage is nice. On that final pull at second stage, there is a tiny bit of creep. I don't know, that Timney might go and then might go back to factory because the factory trigger that came with this is exceptionally good. We'll just see. That's just one of those things that I'm testing because, as I said, I like to test things. It's in the MDT XRS chassis. Now, I'm usually not a chassis kind of person. And of all the MDT chassis, this seemed to be the best for the cheapest. And I actually really like this thing. I don't particularly like the aesthetic of this part here for some reason. It just doesn't tickle my fancy. But having the vert grip and a place to put your thumb has actually made my shooting a hell of a lot better for that long range stuff. Now, obviously, I wouldn't go stomping around the bush with this because it's fucking heavy. And also, standing up shooting with a chassis, I don't like vert grip for standing up shooting. I like traditional grip. That's just my personal preference, especially shooting animals on the move. One thing that's quite annoying with the chassis though is that's the correct height I need to see my scope. However, I can't take the bolt out. So, as an interim, I've just put zip ties around the posts, so when I take this in and out to get the bolt in and out, I can return that to where it needs to be. Now, what I am going to do is I'm just going to lathe up some collars to sit on those posts so it returns to the exact same height every single time. I think that will solve my issue, but not everyone has a lathe, so that's just one thing to consider if you're looking into the MDT XRS chassis. I've got a MDT mag in here. This is a 5-rounder. Because I'm not really doing like comp shooting with it, I am only doing varminting. 5 rounds is working perfectly fine for me. If I did in the future make this a comp gun, I would change that to a 10-round mag, but it's not, so 5 rounds is working fine for me. Actually, one extra thing that's cool about using this mag is it's just a standard 308 mag, so you get a longer case overall length than you get out of a normal 22-250 overall length. So if I want to go to heavy bullets, I can load them out nice and long, providing that I have the throat room in the rifle to do it. But that's just a nice little extra feature. On the front end here, it is quite thin in that profile. Some people reckon it's ugly. I don't really give a shit, but yeah, it is what it is. You can get the it's called like the night vision hood or fucking some shit, but it's an extra piece of M-locks that come up and over the top here. I am going to buy that at some stage because I do want to put torches on this. Even though normally spotlighting the car or the UTV has the spotlight on it, but I've found that a few times I've really wanted to have my own torch purposely fitted to the rifle. Just for those rare occasions that the spotlight gets moved, just as about to pull a shot, which does happen. So yeah, I just want to have my own torch on here. Speaking of torches, let's have a look at this. I was recently sent this by a company called Armitech. Now this is the Armitech Doberman Pro. It is a torch, as you can bloody well see. And it is fucking bright. But yeah, so this is a small-ish light. This is 1500 lumens, has a 368 meter throw, has a 32-hour runtime on the battery. It charges via a little magnetic thing on the back. It's very similar to like an Olight system, but you know, it's not the Olight brand, and it's from Europe. It came with this magnetic weapon mount, so you can magnet to your barrel. It's got a Pressel switch, which just boop straight on the back, which I think is actually pretty cool. So you got a momentary and a constant on those buttons. It clips onto Picatinny rail, so it's perfect for mounting onto a Varmint gun. I'm not fully done with reviewing this, and obviously I'm going to put a review video up at some point, but this, from what I've played with it so far, is actually pretty bloody good. So, if you want to buy something from Army Tech in Europe, have it shipped to you, you can use the code GETLIT, jump on over there, have fun, buy yourself a bloody torch. Anyway, back to the video. Yeah, on the bottom here, I have an MDT barricade stop. Now, am I shooting barricades with this gun? No. However, on the UTV I shoot out of, it has a rail that we sit the rifles on, and I can push that barricade stop directly into that rail, and therefore I just get a little bit more stable when I'm shooting for those longer range shots. So I'm kind of liking that at the moment. We have these UTG M-lock mounted bipod legs, which are pretty cool. They're 5 positions, so you just pull down this collar and you can change the position of it. So all the way back, down, forward, and all the way up. So yeah, I'm really liking those. They also extend out. I think I've shown this before in another video, like that. So yeah, those bipods are pretty bloody cool. We'll circle back to the barrel now. So, as you can see, it's quite thin because it's a light, so it's a light profile. Yeah, so that's not really the drama I have with this barrel. Shooting at the range, yeah, it does get hot quicker, which I've got to take into consideration and just keep an eye on the barrel heat while I'm shooting groups for load development, etc. That's not the issue I have. The issue I have is this is a 22-inch barrel. I would prefer to have a 24 or potentially even a 26-inch barrel. It's already a heavy gun, so I don't really give a shit about the extra weight of the longer barrel. But I want to be able to push my velocities a little bit higher. Because of the 22-inch barrel, and being that it's a small caliber, being 22-250, so 224 caliber, the more barrel you lose, the more velocity you lose per inch than a bigger caliber gun. Anyway, that's detrimenting my velocities. I want to push the velocities high so I can get the bullets a little bit flatter, but also so it can align to the ballistics in my loopholed LRF. In there it has ballistics specifically for 55 grain 22-250 going 36-80. I can't get these bullets to go 36-80 because of my barrel length. Now, bear with me for 2 seconds while I explain this. If I get the velocity the same, I can then use, in this LRF, if I laser target and it goes, it's 425 yards or whatever, it will tell me the MOA clicks. I can come to here and just go, click up, hold, and shoot. So I think that that is well worth having the longer barrel. Now, at the moment, that barrel can just stay how it is. It doesn't really bother me that much. I just, in the future, would like to do that. So potentially this will get rebarreled. When I rebarrel it, I'll probably go something Gucci, something carbon wrapped, because fuck it, why not? And potentially even make it a 22-250 Ackley improved, just to get that little bit extra velocity. But since you can just rechamber a normal 22-250 chamber to Ackley, I'll probably just make it a 22-250, see how that goes, and then in the future, if I really want to step it up, I can step it up. One of the other things with this barrel is the twist rate is 1 in 14. So that is quite slow. I'm kind of limited to 55 grain. I can shoot 60 grainers out of it, but not the best. So once again, if I do want to turn this into a comp gun and I want to shoot out past, 400 or 500 meters, I would want to go to a sleeker, longer, high BC bullet. To do that, I would need a faster twist rate. So they're all things to consider with the barrel. So in the future, that barrel may get changed. Right now, I've got way too many other guns to work on, so that's probably going to go on the back burner. But anyway, overall, I think this gun is actually pretty fucking cool. So, it's a chassis gun. It's got a really bloody big optic. I'm getting a night scope for it, which will be bloody cool. It's a Tikka, so it's smooth. The trigger's nice, although could be better. We'll see if that chimney stays in there. It might get fucked off. But anyway, How cool is that? Anyway, hope you got something out of that video. If you've got any if you've got any hints, tips, anything like that you want to share with me about your long range guns or your varminting guns, drop it in the comments below. If you think this video was shit, then go and make your own, and I'll see you next video. Hooroo.